Pewter can be cast into a great variety of different materials. I have a wooden mold into which I cast stem bases. This is just construction lumber. Actually, it's not. This is hardwood. It's birch or maple. And this gets screwed together. I pour pewter in there, and I get a long stemmed object out, which I then put on the lathe and turn down and polish. And the base of the auction piece that I have here was made from this mold. Pewter is also cast into silicon rubber molds and vulcanized rubber molds, and I'm just showing this to some of you before the rest of you gathered. And this is a rubber mold of 7 belt buckles. And this mold is made in 2 parts that fit together, and the pewter, this is locked on a turntable which revolves slowly. The molten pewter is poured down the middle. It runs out through these different gates by centrifugal force and fills in each object over here. You then take it apart, flip the objects out, and you have 7 castings within a minute. This is a commercial process, and a lot of the stuff that you see in the pewter shops is made this way, at a rubber mold. They're also cast into metal molds. What I want to talk about was an experience that Hiroko and I had on a trip to Japan. My friend Susan and Hiroko and I went to Japan to visit my grandchildren, and we spent some time with my kids, and then we went off visiting factories and craftsmen. We went to a pewter factory which casts into hydrocal molds, so a special hard, tough form of plaster. This is hydrocal, and is very, very tough and can take multiple castings, sustained casting. And they cast into these small molds, and there was one man in the factory who sat on the floor in a cold room and dipped molten pewter out of a big gas-fired melting pot, and with a small ladle poured these molds, and the objects that came out were the factory's productions. These were then taken to the other part of the factory where people put these up on a lathe which revolved, and they would then scrape or cut a design by peeling off the metal. And so it went from a casting to a finished product. This exemplifies that. This is the rough casting. The metal came in from this area. Okay? After it was popped out of the mold, this then went on a lathe, and then they skimmed it. The next step was that this is considerably slimmed down, and it's got a bright finish. You can still see the tool marks on it. And they also painted a design with asphaltum. And then it was etched. The part that was protected by the asphaltum wasn't etched, and so the design ends up showing faintly in the metal surface. So we went from this to this. The next step on this would be to lacquer it with maybe a colored lacquer. This is another object that the factory makes for storing tea. What the lathe does is it makes it perfectly round and imparts this very bright finish. So when the lathe work is done, you get a highly polished surface, inside and out. This is all done freehand by turning wood. It's remarkable to see it. I was very impressed at the lack of safety precautions. 6 people sit next to each other. Where is it? All right, 6 people sit next to each other, elbow to elbow, and they scrape and turn these things down freehand. Each lid is fitted individually to each pot, and they fit, you know, amazingly well. When you put the lid on, it sinks slowly down. These are really beautifully done. They're done one at a time. This is a wonderful factory. Hiroko knows the name, but I don't remember the name of it. This is the biggest pewter factory in the world, the biggest production of pewter in the world. This is from Selangor. That's the name of the company, and it's the capital of Malaysia. And the casting is very, very fine. and the finishing is really beautiful. So the castings can take many different forms. They can come off the lathe with a high finish. They can get a satin finish from sanding, a sanding belt. But it all starts at casting. If you're interested in learning more about this, there are books here. A good basic pewter book is Pewter Working, the blue book over here. The best book on casting is this book by Kaufman, and this has pictures of all kinds of pewter molds that were used in early American pewter and the tools. And it's an excellent book. If you want to learn how to cast, let's say, a mug or a pot, this is the diagram that shows the casting mold, and then the black is the actual casting itself.